Oh, let me start recording. Edit. Hello, hello. Welcome to our stream. Just follow up here.
I believe that if we are honest with ourselves, that the most fascinating problem in the world is who am I? What do you mean? What do you feel when you say the word I myself? I don't think there can be any more fascinating preoccupation than that, because it's so mysterious, it's so elusive. Because what you are in your inmost being escapes your examination in rather the same way that you can't look directly into your own eyes without using a mirror. You can't bite your own teeth, and you can't touch the tip of this finger with the tip of this finger. And that's why there's always an element of profound mystery in the problem of who we are.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to
Welcome.
Question Block. I am your philosopher. Oh, hello, Max Arete. Welcome to our erudite discussion of philosophy.
Are we gonna talk this way the whole time?
Yes, we are your scholars. Kind of, yeah, sort of an Alan Watts.
So
Lots of pauses. The thing is,
they're calling it the most philosophical.
If we are honest with ourselves, we must acknowledge the most interesting thing is the question of the self.
So you're like a poor man's Nietzsche, basically.
I'm an Alan Watts. I'm a distinguished lecturer at Harvard.
I'm like second wave Siddhartha. Before he shaved and gave up stuff. Like I'm really into gifts. I'm into fancy chips and stocks.
November went too far.
Oh yeah, it did. Oh, that's true.
It is November.
Yeah,
people probably think it's a November episode.
Yeah, we figured that like beards make you wise. So
it's not the November episode. It's the episode of philosophy.
Yeah. So you're Dr. Wires, yeah?
Yes, I'm Dr. Wires.
And I'm Arielist.
I have a degree of philosophy.
I actually, when I was in preschool, which was like last year, I actually got we all got
puberty was very fast.
Yes.
For you
guys too. Yeah. We all got awards because it's New York preschool, and I got the philosopher award because I was
you asked questions.
Yeah, that was their way of saying like your kid asked way too many questions.
Who am I? That's what you got to ask.
Yeah.
What is the nature of being?
Oh yeah, so I'm drinking this tea that has philosophical sayings on it. It says our creative consciousness is not limited.
It's not really.
Well, no, it is. Everything's
word salad of enlightenment terms.
Okay, we're gonna agree with each other.
We all know the best philosophy asks questions. It never answers them.
Okay, so we're gonna go through basically as much philosophy and philosophers as we can over the next 2 hours. We have some guests that are going to be joining us with expertise in different areas of philosophy. But we've been studying a lot of philosophy. So I guess let's start.
What would be the name of the university you worked at as a philosopher?
What do you mean?
Well, most like philosophers these days are like professors, right? So they all work at universities.
Wait, let's go back to the beginning of time, because those philosophers would just name their universities like after themselves.
Mhm.
Like philosophia, I guess it means a love of knowledge. Sophia, like philos means love, and Sophia means knowledge, right?
Do you
And
know,
then-
do you know who coined the term philosophy?
Was it Plato?
It was Pythagoras.
It was Pythagoras, who is like one of the first
That's
philosophers that we know about.
around 500 BC.
Yeah, he's the guy who who made that theorem about triangles.
Well, so yeah, I mean, a neat thing about the Greeks is they didn't separate between the concept of like mathematics or mathematician and philosophy and asking, or like chemistry and asking like any questions about nature or the nature of being or anything. It was all one discipline.
And what is that discipline called?
I mean,
It starts with an E.
it's a bunch. What do you mean? What? The nature of being? Epistemology?
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
Epistemology. But I thought you were talking about geometry.
Oh. I'm like, and here's someone who never learned any math.
This is
Um,
this is oh god. But when I didn't know how long it would last, and it was 7 minutes.
7 minutes and beard. I've never had a beard before, so I'm kind of enjoying it. It's really warm.
You've been a beard.
Definitely.
You-
Haven't
you
we
know
all?
worn one.
So Pythagoras kind of had a cult following.
A lot of the early philosophers did.
But Pythagoras was like especially mystical. Like the way that I imagine him was like, I don't know if you ever saw Bullfinger, where like they had like the mind head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh hey Adrian, what's up?
Hello, Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian, the philosophy of hair.
Yeah.
And beauty actually, that's really appropriate because Greek philosophy was very heavily into like beauty and aesthetics.
Okay.
But Pythagoras, I imagine him like the mind head people with like the triangle hats.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah, he would have a triangle hat.
Yeah. And
You know, he did so much more than just his theory.
he did. His people were kind of like Alex Jones in that they were like, but like with numerology, like they were like almost on the spectrum with their obsession with like certain numbers.
So
like
it's all connected.
they were, yeah, they were like, well, one is man and 2 is woman and like 3 is marriage, and then like 10 was their favorite number, and they were just like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Yes, hipster Pythagoras. Yeah, they were like 10s across the board, and they actually did know that there were 9 celestial beings.
Bodies, but we
Or
looked
bodies.
into it, and they were like, they were guessing it a few.
One of them is like the giant ball of fire, so but which is not the sun. There's like
Is the sun
the eternal flame.
and the eternal flame.
Yeah. But they believed in these 9 celestial things, and they were like, there must be a 10th one that's hidden from us because 10 is like the best number, and clearly it's a mistake that there's only like 9.
Hey, Rob.
Hey Rob, what's up? We're talking philosophy.
Yeah. He's probably slinging barbecue at the Bakken Market.
That would be really hard to eat with these beards, except maybe it would be easy though, because it'd be like your own napkin.
Flavor saver.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
I
I feel like that Kill Bill character.
can't
Hi,
really.
my.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't really do that.
Yours is
Mine.
better trim.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
so you got the celestial bodies.
Yeah, so Pythagoras, the Pythagoreans, they were like, there's got to be 10 of them. Like, there must be a hidden one somewhere that we're not aware of. Like, Bizarro
So-
Earth.
And they believed in Bizarro Earth, which is directly opposite the sun from Earth, which is why it can't be seen.
Yeah.
Because they actually had, like, they believed in, like, a heliocentric, like, sun in the center of the universe.
Yeah.
1,500 years before Galileo had to deal with his
Yeah.
figures.
He was like, dude, someone already said this. Like, it's not even me.
Yeah, no, the Greeks had their shit sorted. They knew about the golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence. They had a pretty good approximation of pi.
Golden ratio.
Killing it.
Um,
At least as far as numbers and geometry. Good. They knew the Earth was a sphere
Yeah.
and like roughly knew how big it was based on position of the sun and shadows, which is a cool geometry question you could get if you go back to
What about
ninth
the
grade.
5 o'clock shadow? Do they know about that?
Mm.
So okay, so we
they knew about shade already.
they knew shit. Oh my god. So we have Pythagoras. We have Pythagoras and Pythagoreans. There is a bunch of Eastern philosophy in there, which would be me, second wave Siddhartha. We'll pop that in like after we finish the Greeks, because I think that's a little bit clearer for everyone.
Well, because it's funny that
We'll go by location.
The Greeks were, I guess, the very original, but yeah, they get talked about as the foundation of Western philosophy.
Yeah, which is like what?
It doesn't really make sense.
So there's
Richard's got jokes over on the Twitch chat. By
the
the way,
golden
where he
ratio
just-
about taking showers. Oh,
Pluto
Pluto's
isn't
in
a
a
planet.
planet.
Yeah, there's only 8, and then you got the sun.
yeah.
So
Well,
still 9 celestial
but
bodies.
Pythagoras, like, look, he did something like pretty freaking awesome. Just to finish up on, he did something pretty freaking awesome, which is like make math like have a cult following, which like we've never seen done since.
I will say it was pretty cool the celestial bodies like the planets, that they knew that the planets were different than the stars because they moved differently than the stars, right?
Yeah.
The stars act as if they're a fixed background.
This doesn't have to do with
I'm
philosophy.
just saying it's careful observation.
cool.
I thought it was cool.
I think it's cool too.
Okay.
I like
Well,
that.
Anyway,
We'll save it for the
so-
astrology
so
episode.
let's
astronomy.
move forward a couple hundred years.
So we have-
what?
So let's talk about Socrates and Plato.
Yeah, the
like,
Athenian school.
Yeah.
Hey, Danielle.
hey, what's up? So it goes in the order of Socrates, Plato, Aristotle.
Mhm.
Like, right? That's like the 3 dudes that everyone thinks of. The 3 Greek dudes. Socrates, it's really interesting because like Socrates was gross. Like he was kind of like that eccentric. Like he would. I'm just thinking who would he be played by? Like maybe like a really unkempt like Jack Black.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty good.
and he was just like kind of a like smelly dude, unkempt, like kind of wild, and he did really love to be right all the time, and he would just like stand in the.
He was a troll.
He was a troll. He would like stand in the
Trump.
town.
He could be played by
Trump.
He was a little more clever though.
He was
Trump just calls people names, but he was like a reply guy back before you could post online. He would like butt into people's conversations and be like, actually, if you think
Yeah.
about it, he's like one of those.
He was kind of like a
Control.
virtue signaler dude, maybe, but like a knowledge
Yeah.
signaler.
He's like, look at you walking to work, and then we just ask questions to make people feel bad about everything.
The interesting thing is that he never wrote anything down, ever. Like, ever. He never wrote, like, almost a single word.
He didn't espouse anything either. He just found contradictions in how people
Yeah,
lived.
and he was forced to die because...
Which is why the Athenians killed him.
Yeah, it was over, like, semantic... Like, he was, like, basically arguing, and then someone was like, say I was right and you were wrong, and he was like, nah, and they were like, okay, well, you're gonna have to die, and he was like, fine. And
Wow.
then...
That's a quick summary of
Well,
the
yeah, because we got a lot
but-
to cover. We're gonna get into.
Wait, this is one of the few texts that I have read that we're going to
Okay.
talk about. If I could
Wait,
just
but
do
that's
a quick
Plato, right?
talk. Well, Plato wrote it up, but it's Socrates arguing it, and
So-
Plato wrote down everything
That's
Socrates
the really
said.
interesting thing is that like Socrates, like you're saying, no one would have known about him if it weren't for like Plato writing.
Yeah.
Plato never wrote about himself, but Plato wrote a ton, and he always.
Steven. I was about to mention him in Bill and Ted's
Oh
Excellent Adventure.
yeah,
I wanted to say that joke when he's like, it's this dude called Socrates, and he's looking at the phone book. He's like, it's under Socrates.
he's so great.
So,
Yeah, Plato wrote in all of Plato's works. Plato was always like the observer and the narrator, but like never put himself in any of his writings, and he always wrote about Socrates. He only knew Socrates for like 2 years before Socrates died, and then he was really affected by him, and like in all of his writings, it's like these sort of like dialogues
this
between
is the character from my novel.
Yeah, and so talk about the apology.
Yeah, or for example, the allegory of the cave, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, but the apology
is a conversation between Socrates and Plato's cousin that Plato is writing down.
His cousin.
Yeah, and but the
He's
apology
asking
is
for a friend.
Yeah, the people of Athens got so fucking sick of Socrates standing in the town square and hectoring everyone, yelling at them. And this is before they had headphones and you couldn't just ignore him. That they put him on trial for like because he wouldn't shut up for being so obnoxious. And the Athenian like old guard or whatever, they were like, look, you can you can have death, or what they used to do is just banish you, and they'd be like, just get the fuck out of Athens,
He was
right?
like, no.
And so he was, and they like under their code of law, you could argue in their court, they were like, or just propose some other solution, like maybe you just won't bother us anymore. And he has this like several hours long speech that he then gave to the Athenian authorities, where he said that his punishment should be, because he was such a valuable asset to the Athenians,
right. Yeah.
that they would give him a lifetime salary and forever thank him for hectoring them in their town square. So they decided instead that his punishment was death.
They're like, you can drink some hemlock, okay? And there's the painting, which probably got a bunch of you on Instagram to tune in to see what we that we were featured in, the death of Socrates,
the death of Socrates.
Which I think is so funny because he's like it's like him and like all of his men's around him, and they're bros. Just like, oh my god, they're like, we're so sad, they're like, you're gonna die, and he's got his like hemlock in one hand, and he's still like he's still like arguing. Yeah, he's like, and another thing, but just one more second. So that's Socrates. Plato is like my favorite one. Plato's actually a nickname. His real name was very similar to Aristotle. I forget exactly what it was, but it was like Aristotle or something, which would be my.
What does Plato mean?
Plato means broad. Yeah, strong Virgo energy. Plato means broad, which could be about his knowledge, the fact that he was like brolic, or the fact that he had a big ass forehead. He had a 5 head. Yeah, how they moved. And yeah, Plato wrote a ton of works about like what I really like. I like that he wrote about beauty. He was like the first philosopher to be like, let's write about like beauty and aesthetics, which I am all about, as you can tell.
What did you learn from his beauty and aesthetics school?
That we all have these perfect images, like composite images in our mind of like the way things should be. So like if I said tree, everybody's gonna, everyone think of a tree. You might think of like the most perfect tree. And he was like, what makes a tree? What are the qualities what are things, qualities of tree-iness, basically. And it's kind of disappointing when like they're the real trees might not live up to the standards that we've like built of them in our heads, which is my explanation of the allegory of the cave.
Yeah, the example I've heard is actually about triangles, so that you can picture in your head exactly what a triangle is, the line drawing right in your head. So you will never in reality observe an actual perfect triangle, right? You'll see like a shape and you're like, oh, that's like a triangle, a triangular or whatever, or drawing, but it will never be exactly perfect.
Yes.
So the essence of the thing as opposed to yeah. So this like theory of forms, right?
Yeah.
Is that like, and that's one reason geometry I think was so big and intertwined with a lot of this. Is that like geometry is sort of the perfect example of it.
I have an example.
Did you have an epiphany?
I did. I think this beard stroking is helping me think.
Is it a new psychological theorem?
So like
philosophical.
The forms, like the perfect form or whatever, is like your face in Facetune.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then like the real world thing is like I woke up like this.
I think they related a lot to, I think, also like love and romance related to it, because in your mind you create the perfect image of the person, right? As compared to them actually.
Well, Plato. Plato. It's really funny because Platonic love is, people think of, what do you think of Platon when I say Platonic?
It's friends. Platonic is like, no, they're just my platonic friend. They're just platonic.
Right. But that's really interesting because Plato actually wrote a ton about eroticism, and a platonic lover is actually, it's kind of like your soulmate, because it's basically, it got homogenized by the Italians,
probably the Christians
that we'll talk about in a little bit. Those goddamn Italians.
So platonic love is your soulmate.
Yeah, and I think this is so beautiful. So once upon a time, Plato said that like once upon a time, we had 8 legs. We were 2 people. Some people were 2 men. Some people were 2 women. Some people were a man and a woman. Some people were half like hermaphrodite. So like the 2 people that they were, each one was like half of a like. You know what I mean?
This is well depicted in Hedwig and the Angry Inches.
Yes.
The Origin of Love.
Yeah.
By the way, this is what that in that rock opera with Neil Patrick Harris.
And
this is what it's about.
And
that song.
These people, like these creatures, would roll like a tumbleweed. Like they would just like think like the 8 legs. They would just be like.
You can make a horror movie about this creature too.
Yeah.
It really is.
And to roll with 8 legs, I feel like they're joined by the ass, which is very Greek, ancient Greek, right? Because the legs would be on the outside.
I was thinking like tumblers. You know how like they'll put their feet on your shoulder and.
Platonic spiritual love as opposed to carnal lust. Oh, yeah, yes.
So platonic love is spiritual, but these days it gets used a lot as just like they're friends. It's a platonic relationship.
So then when we were punished. When Adam like fucked up or whatever, we were separated from our other creature, and when we meet someone that says beautiful, that like makes us feel in love or like butterflies or whatever, it's because their beauty is reminding us of how beautiful it felt to be in heaven or like in wherever. The before times.
the weird one of the double creatures.
Yeah, which I think is so amazing. But then if stuff doesn't work out, you're like ripped apart again, and so your soul like doesn't know what's happening. Like it's very painful for your soul. Which is why falling in love hurts. But this was all in a dialogue, a platonic like dialogue that was about. It was between a like sexual like. Boy slave, like man, like
the
a man slave.
So you're talking about the Greek pederasty?
This was in a platonic dialogue of like a, what would you, like a kid, like a, what do you call the child of the ped, and then like the ass, and it's this was like the like. Boy, the child boy,
like a boy assistant.
Yeah, and Socrates.
And
who is
they had a dialogue. Okay.
A platonic, like Plato wrote about them having
about platonic love.
Yeah, and like it's funny because like the boy. Yeah.
We're almost about to hit the half-hour mark.
Yeah. Can we finish talking about this real quick, and then and then Adrian seems to know a ton about this. Adrian, if you want to go. Live with us when we finish talking about pederasty, which will be like 2 minutes.
Continue,
we would love
please.
to have you. So it's a dialogue between this boy and like his philosophical teacher, who also was having sex with him in exchange for knowledge.
I don't know.
And the like boy is supposed to be coy and like cute and kind of like twinky, but like the boy in this story was kind of like me when I was a kid and just asked like a ton of questions, and he was like, "But why?" Yeah, and then it has like Socrates being like, "Well, on this night we have 8 legs." Yeah, his submissive. There we go.
His twink.
His twink.
Okay, Adrian, you can check in
you're
when
on
you
a
get
train?
when you get
Yeah.
off the train.
When you get off the train, please check in because it seems like you know so much about all of this. So the beard.
So much hair.
I totally understand like the chafing too, the beard chafing that's happening to me.
Well, I don't know. If it was my hair, it'd be silky and luxurious.
But my hair, it wouldn't like. I got my hair.
It's too thick.
It's too thick. Play-Doh though, as my I was talking to my dad about Play-Doh. And yeah, like Adrian, when you get off the train or whenever you have a signal, please hop on. No matter where we are, you can talk about whatever philosophy you want. So my dad was saying that like, yeah, Plato, although he wrote a ton and like really preserved the image of Socrates that we have, he didn't like writing at all because he said that it would ruin your memory.
That is a very true and funny thing. That like, yeah, Socrates hated writing and made fun of it.
Plato did, even though he wrote.
Socrates,
we don't know.
Oh, I thought Plato was recording Socrates talking about how writing.
No, he wrote all of this post.
But Plato didn't. He just wrote that that's what Socrates said.
Oh, well, okay. So my dad told me that Plato hated writing.
I don't know that Plato ever. Someone out there can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know that, like you said at the beginning, I don't think Plato ever presented anything that he wrote as, this is me, Plato, telling you a thing. Everything was presented as a Socratic dialogue. So
Plato's Socrates hated writing.
You really should treat the two as like one entity almost. Yeah.
Plus Socrates.
But yeah, Plato.
Socrato.
He did hate.
And that's
he
what
hated writing, and much like, these days we're like, oh, I don't even know what. Now it's phones. Everybody bitches about phones.
Well, they were like they're always on their tablet writing on that tablet. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, no, epic poems should be memorized, and I think it is. There's like a Socrates talking about some other like rhetorician or whatever who's arguing with. He's like, you write your speeches. It's like the cutting line. He's like, I've seen you reading from notes. Like, you must have a terrible memory. Like, yeah, and they prided themselves in doing everything. Kind of like a slam poet. You do it off the book, right? It's like, that's the mark that you like know your stuff. Oh, one true villain asks, is that you, Karl Marx? Good question, because we are going to get to Marx in the second half of the show. We're getting up to philosophies of government.
And that's another thing that Plato said, that words are like orphans at the mercy of whoever adopts them.
Yeah.
And so he was afraid that like his stuff would be misconstrued. He's probably afraid of this happening, like right now.
Yeah.
It's like his worst nightmare.
I don't even know what he would say. He's yeah.
Yeah, he'd be like, oy vey.
Two New York hipsters wearing fake beards.
Oh,
the fact trap.
The fact trap. Avoiding the fact trap. Which is what we're trying to do by...
Facts don't care about your feelings.
I feel like, okay, so I know, like, I feel like you would be definitely like Nietzsche, because Nietzsche had like a crazy ass mustache.
He had a crazy mustache.
But I feel like,
sort of
I feel like this would be like, if we like took it out.
Nietzsche had a really great mustache.
Yeah, we just rolled this up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice, and you, who would you be?
I'm second wave Siddhartha before he got,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't understand why Siddhartha's always like mad clean shaven and whatnot. Like he so many periods where he
lived on a boat.
He lived on a boat.
He
sat under a tree.
Put it close to.
All right.
The classical Athenian school.
Wait, should we I have sound effects. What? All right, so.
Play the sound effect. Now we're gonna move to some Eastern school.
Let's clap for the. Yeah.
Good lecture. Yeah.
Great. So that ends the. Although if Adrian, you want to continue talking about Athenians later, that's totally fine. We will do that with you.
Blast. So let's move on to
Eastern.
Eastern Plato class. Eastern philosophies.
Yeah, I have a bunch. I have like a bomb on there.
This is great.
These pictures aren't very descriptive, so we got a glass breaking. We're at a Jewish wedding. Oh, we forgot Aristotle. We did. So yeah, Aristotle came after.
He was later. What did Aristotle come up with?
I feel like. Wait, was he in there? I guess Adrian will have to ask
Aristotle
you
was
about that.
post-Plato Socrates. I think Aristotle is much more concerned about like the natural physical world, and he might have been the concept of atoms. Some of you can close that. But I thought Aristotle theorized that like there must be some small indivisible
Truth
unit.
resides in the world around us. That's what Aristotle.
I think I just guessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, epistemology was his thing. Epistemology, sorry, and his approach is empiricism.
He argues that virtue is wisdom. We find the truth from evidence gained in the world around us.
So you could say he's kind of the founder of science, right? The whole idea that you can study the natural world to learn truth.
Oh,
this would have been very anti like Socrates and Plato, who believed that there's like forms, and you can only, and even Pythagoras, who believed that like particularly like Socrates, that like answers have to be found in the mind.
Okay, so let's talk about the Eastern philosophy. Which is basically like
Buddha?
we'll talk about Taoism, which so if you see Tao, how do you pronounce it?
Tao.
Yes, thank you.
When was Taoism, by the way? So the Greeks were doing all this stuff in like 500 to 300 BC.
569 was Pythagoras, right? And then
sure. Okay, yeah, so 600.
Yeah, and then we have.
Yeah, when did that's the ancient world. But yeah, I'm curious when when Taoism started.
When Taoism started, I am looking on my timeline. But anyway, it's Liu Cao. Yes, Taoism. Well, yeah, this always bothered me because there's like a bunch of restaurants and clubs called Tao, like Tao, and I would always be like, "Oh, are you going to Tao?" And people would be like, "You mean Tao?" And I'm like, "No, dumbass." Like,
have you seen there's the beer, Qingdao?
Yeah.
The Chinese beer, and they're
so 6th century BCE.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, right? Taoism was before even all the Greeks.
Lousy Dowsy. Yeah. So he basically said that like Tao is the way. It's like the middle path. He was kind of like not like lazy. Like his thing, I think he was kind of like a lazy hippie, where he's just like he's like, it's cool, man. Like just like he's the one who's like, is it a hole in the wall or like a wall around the hole? Like he's just like the middle ground. Yeah, as Adrian was saying, it's the Asiatic philosophy has always been about how to interact with others, the forefathers of etiquette. And also I feel like they're like the anti-stress. Like so I'm drinking like yogi tea right now, like with the sayings, and it's like I believe it's the calming one. So like that would be, I feel like when people are stressed, they look to like Eastern philosophy. Or when they're having, like, a breakdown. So they're like, I need to simplify things and, like, do a makeover on my soul. I feel like this is the first place that people look. I need to be enlightened.
Eastern philosophy.
Yeah. So the Tao is just about it's not about no action, it's just, like, least action. So it's basically, like, wait for others to, like, freak out. Be the most, you understand that everyone around you
are the most of them. Well, no, there was very much and the like denying of desire almost to set.
Wait, that's Confucius. Confucius is like a very extremely conservative, and he's the one who had the heaven mandate. So I'm just So
I'll take you on the heaven mandate.
Ooh, oh. Wait, say that again.
Well, so do you want to have the mandate? Is that a rim shot?
Oh, it's like a drum.
Wait, is there a loud?
It's a drum roll. No, it was a drum roll.
Let me hear it again.
It was a snare roll. You can. Oh, that would be more like a. Wait, you gotta hide. We can't let people know. Yeah.
No, our studio audience is making those noises. God, this thing is piercing.
I know. Okay, so wait. I need to take that away. I don't know. They go on for like a really long time.
They're all really long.
That's when we're about to drop knowledge bombs. All right, so Taoism, the way is right. Confucius did have all rules. Taoism is like least action. He's like, wait till people freak out around you, and like, let's say you're planning a party or something, get like a really uptight friend to plan it with you, have them like freak out, and then you show up and just like with a fabulous costume and are like, this is my party. Like that's kind of like Taoism.
Okay, that's how we do this podcast.
I feel like it's 50-50. I feel like it's kind of more of a Karl Marx, like, communist thing.
No one does anything. We blame the state.
So there's, Confucius, Confucianism. He had 100 schools of thought. That's THOT. Just to clarify.
Okay.
But he was about like ritual and he's also about like etiquette and Confucius. He's also like he had like all these sayings, like he was like, if you do this, then that.
He's very quotable.
Confucius say, a man who go to cat house end up in dog house.
Well. There's entire websites full of these. I encourage you guys to go look up Confucius sayings.
Yeah,
Also,
and in the familial relationships, like he just described families.
Richard gave us a good one in the Twitch chat. Confucius say, baseball wrong. Man with 4 balls cannot walk.
Yes!
That's
oh my
sort
god.
of a Yakov Smirnoff.
Which is what I was going for too. He just described relationships. He was like, there's the sovereign and the subject, the father and the son, the husband and the wife, the elder brother, younger brother, and the friend and the friend. Which I'm like, yeah, we know. Like, duh. I mean, but he was very about like...
What you know, you know. What you don't know, you don't know. This is true wisdom.
Yeah. Look at your life and look at your choices. Also, when he died, he thought he was kind of like a failure. He was like...
Did these guys have schools of thought, or they just went
Confucianism.
on the
That's why when you were like, what?
No, sorry. But like they have... Now they do. But at the time, were they like the Greeks where they had like a bunch of bros hanging out with them?
He didn't, actually. Like, he
Confucius
died
was
and
solo,
he
right?
felt like he was like very not successful. And he was like, oh, well.
He's more of a hermit, I guess.
But then, okay, so let's get to Siddhartha.
Okay. Let's get to... So that's... Yeah. All right. Well, that's a couple thousand years of Chinese philosophy summed up for you. Yeah, Biggie quoted Confucius. There's potheads ruminating. Back then, yeah. I mean, probably more like opium heads, but yeah, a lot of ruminating. A lot of chewing being
things
wise.
over.
There was a lot of like how I become wise.
So there's Siddhartha, who's me, and my dad was like, your son is going to grow up to be either like a very like successful guy or like an extremely like holy clairvoyant person. And so like my dad, he basically locked me like in our beautiful palace and like I had all this gold and stuff like that. And like didn't let me out because he wanted to protect me so that I could become my like truest, holiest self.
You were with your friend though, right? Isn't like the friend a big part of the story of Siddhartha?
No, well, but then one of my servants, who I called them friend because I didn't know any better. I was like, yeah, we're friends, and the servant was like, I'm being paid to be your friend because you suck, because you're like a spoiled kid. The friend was like, let's go on a little... You look skeptical.
No, continue.
Okay. It was like, let's go on like a little trip.
Yeah.
a little ride in what vehicle do you think we took?
You need to speed this up. This is the first like 10 pages.
All right, so we went for a ride, and then like we saw like an old person, and I was like, "Ew, gross! What is that?" And my friend, see, that's why I'm
You and
trying
your
to
friend
slow it
studied,
down.
and then you studied like over, I forget the name of the one school, and you were like, this is not
Wait,
true in my
no, I have to tell you about the other two people that I met.
Okay.
So I met like an old person. I was like, gross.
Okay.
And like my friend was like, this is like normal. Like this happens to everyone. I was like, oh my god, I need to get myself to like a dermatologist immediately so I don't age. And then we came across like a really sick person, and I was like, ew, gross. And they weren't wearing a mask or anything. It was like ridiculous. And my friend was like, don't worry, like everyone gets sick. And I was like, oh my god, am I gonna get sick? And he was like, everyone gets sick. I was like, oh my god. And then we came across a dead person. And I don't know why my friend took me like through this.
I mean, it's India. There's this kind of
Yeah,
stuff is all over the place.
this like disgusting path with all these gross people on it. But there was like a dead person. I was like, ew, gross. This person's like not moving. And my friend was like, yeah, this happens to everyone. Like everyone dies. And I was like, oh my god, how do I stop it? And like,
shouldn't there be like an undertaker or a family like
right? No one.
come
I
get
was like,
this
you
man.
die alone? What the hell? And then and I was like, now I'm sad.
Didn't you go study under Buddha?
Well, then I was like, I'm sad and I need to make friends because I feel really sad right now, and I need to prevent these feelings of sadness. So I went to go study with these like uber, like they're basically like uber vegans who like don't eat anything that casts a shadow. Mm-hmm. They're like 10th level vegans.
The Jainists?
Yeah. I went to go study with them.
You gotta.
I almost died because they like literally didn't eat.
This is still the first of 3 parts of the Book of Siddhartha.
Well, the end part is like real fast.
Okay.
Yeah. So see, I was just stalling for Adrian. Now I can speed up. Okay, so we're at the part of my journey as second wave Siddhartha.
We can just read the book at this point.
Let me tell you about my story, okay?
Okay.
I endured a lot of suffering to come here and tell it to you. So I studied with these Jainists. I almost died because like they literally didn't eat anything. Then I ate something and they were like, "Ew, gross! We don't want to be your friend anymore." And then I got sad again, and then I like became second wave me, which was like bring on the bitches and
I
like
thought you and your friend went to study under the Buddha. That's like a major part of the first book, right?
Oh, I'm just talking about Siddhartha, the actual person.
Oh.
Not like the book.
Like the book Siddhartha.
No, I'm talking about like Siddhartha, the philosopher.
Oh, I thought the popular conception of Siddhartha comes from the book.
Oh, Adrian's here. All right.
Siddhartha.
Well, no. Well, I don't know. All I know is my story.
All right. I just know that I'm trying to do the footnote summary.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that is.
Where he studies under Buddha and then leaves, while his friend stays.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Oh my gosh. You're on you're basically on the path that Siddhartha went on, where I saw all the sick people and the dying people, aka New York City subway.
Well, no, I'm actually on Amtrak, getting back home from Delaware.
Oh my gosh! So you're like more like second wave Siddhartha then, like where
Second wave Siddhartha for sure.
Yeah.
No, but first off, Siddhartha is Buddha.
Mm.
He literally became the Buddha. He was named the Buddha. But
that's what I was getting to.
Oh.
He just basically went out and was like, I am rich. I don't want to be rich anymore. This is boring. I don't want to do this. Let me go be poor.
Yeah.
And then was poor and was like, you know what, this isn't fun either. So
yeah.
I'm just gonna everything in moderation.
That's exactly. See, I'm like second wave Siddhartha, so I'm at the point where like I was just saying when you lost signal, I was like, my friend took me on this as Siddhartha. My friend took me on this trip, and I saw like a sick person, and I was like, gross, you know. And then my friend was like, this happens to everyone, and I was like, oh no, how do I prevent it? And then I was like trying to prevent it, and then I realized I can't prevent it. I just have to
You have to
accept it, and then yeah.
So, what are some summary of Buddhism or whatever? Your philosophy?
That is my philosophy.
The middle
That
path?
all humans suffer. No, it's not. It's that all humans suffer and are bonded by suffering. And like, Adrian, why don't you tell? I don't know if I've gotten to that part of my life yet, since I'm still like the bougie Siddhartha before I become Buddha.
Well, Buddha,
The middle path.
Buddha very much was about the whole trauma bond situation, but then also he essentially went past the trauma bond and was like, hey, you know what?
I like the trauma.
When everything else around you is fucked up, the only way left to go is in.
Yes, I love that. I love that for me.
And that's when he was like, I'm gonna go fucking meditate
under like a I love that it was like, I think it was like a fig tree, right? Oh yeah, there's the Eightfold Path.
Yeah, well,
right? The Eightfold Path is
supposed. It's this like I forgot the name of the tree, but it's a sacred tree. Now I guess.
Yeah,
Back
and
then it
there's
was just a fucking tree.
the Four Noble. I have a book. That's what I'm
I'm
looking down
read
at.
us your Four Noble.
The Four Noble Truths. Suffering is an inherent part of existence, which is dukkha, I believe, the truth of suffering. Then there's the truth of the origin of suffering, which is desire, which is samudaya.
Okay.
And then there's suffering can be ended by detaching oneself from craving and attachment. The truth of the ending of suffering, and then there's the Eightfold Path.
How do we do it?
Yeah. There's I love that. There's an Eightfold Path inside the Four Noble Truths, which I'm like.
It should be like
we were
an infomercial, though, right?
Which is essentially like Pythagoras' wet dream.
Right? Yeah. He was like 3 and 2. Let's add them. Oh my god. Yeah. I wonder what like. Yeah, I wonder what the number of like ejaculation was for Pythagoras. Was it like a square root or something? He was like
10 times a day.
Yeah.
10 times a day you have to do it.
10 times, yeah. He was like 10 times 10. Yeah, the Eightfold Path is
it's the wheel.
Or the middle way.
oh yeah, that wheel. Here it is.
Here it is, your Dharma wheel.
The Dharma wheel. Woo!
Sweet wheel.
Oh, cute.
Sweet wheels.
There's right mindfulness, right action, right intention, right livelihood, right
What
effort.
is the title of that book?
It is called The Philosophy Book. Big ideas simply explained. You're going to see it backwards here. Much like the allegory of the cave.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, you might have an image of what this book looks like forwards, but you're seeing it backwards. Who is your favorite philosopher or philosophy?
I don't know if you would count as a philosopher, but Pitkin. He did a study on the art of learning and how the human mind actually retains information.
Oh, no, I think that counts. Yeah, because
It's a little bit more psychology than it is philosophy, but
I mean, Freud is considered I think Freud is in here. And
he's a psychologist or a psychoanalyst, though, right? They claim to be sort of more empirical, I suppose, than philosophers.
But there is like the study of learning, so that's definitely a thing in here.
like one of my favorite books, and I've read it like 10,000 times, is The Art of Learning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness. So if there is a philosophy that you live your life by, it doesn't have to be like, what is your philosophy in like a nutshell? And it could be like your own.
I guess I lean quite closely to like Buddhist tradition. Well, no, I throw in a little bit of like, I want to say do unto others as they would do as you would like them to do unto you, but honestly, it's more like this is me, If you don't like it, don't let the door hit you with a good luck split shot.
Yes. I feel like that in a weird way that might be like Taoism a little bit, like a
Yeah.
tiny bit, because it's just like be
The
like
genuineness.
genuineness
But also,
and like being in your own flow. I feel like.
yeah. But also, like, along with that, I always try to, like, leave all places, people, and things better than I left them.
Yes, there's. Oh, I totally forget who this was, but I think it was one of the like the Eastern philosophers. Um, they sort of reversed do unto others. Like they reversed that. They were like, don't do unto others as you wouldn't want done unto yourself. Like instead of like do unto others, they were like, yeah, like
It's
if
like a
if
little more passive. A
like-
little more passive, though.
yeah.
Right.
So that might have been lousy. Yeah, because it's basically like you might be okay leaving trash, but like imagine if someone like left trash in your house. Like think about how like yeah.
Mhm.
You also knowing you just like my knowledge of you remind me a lot of like Camus, who we're gonna get into, who's one of my favorite, like the existentialists,
He's an
because
existentialist.
yeah, the
Why is
existentialists
that?
because he was like the most joyful of the existentialists. I think he was like, yeah, like once you know that this life is absurd and you've seen like the horrors of life, you kind of have to like you can be numb to them, but really like the way out of it is just like to laugh and like to sort of
Yeah, to have a bunch
have
of
like
It's
humor.
more, it's more like you've been there, done that, and if you have to be there again, you will be fine because you already know you survived it once, you'll survive it again.
Yes, which
Might as well have fun with the party that is life.
that's
Yeah.
kind of like
Camus had numerous mistresses, and he loved food and drinking
Yeah.
and traveling.
well, then you might be more like a stoic, one of the stoics who were like the earlier existentialists, I guess.
Yes, like Epicurus.
Yeah, I mean, Epicurus. Um, Yeah, it says that his approach is Epicureanism, but I think he was kind of like the first Stoic because he was like, death is the end of consciousness, so it can't be painful. Like, don't fear death. And people always associate him with like hedonistic, like seeking pleasure, but really he was more about like once you've accepted pain can't actually hurt you. I think he was more like accept, like almost like the most painful thing is like fear rather
Yeah,
than
Yeah.
yeah, if we can overcome fear of death, we can be happy.
Well, like, that's from this whole school of thought of, like, there is really nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, you're like a mixture. You're like a trifecta of like Eastern, and then like Stoicism and
Eastern
existentialism.
authenticity.
Yeah.
The joie de vivre. Joie de vivre.
De
Well,
vie.
I mean,
Joie de vivre.
that's
Yeah.
more of, like, my personal philosophy for myself, but, like, as I interact with other people, my philosophy changes for other people. Like, for instance, you know that, like, you've at least seen one of my relationships develop, and you know that, like, in my relationships with others, either partner, friend, whomever, like, my goals then shift to make sure that evolution is happening for them. So I'm like
I'm just plugging this in.
the ultimate stage mom, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
For
And
like everyone, not even just for like my personal partnerships. It's literally just wherever I intersect with another human being, I do everything in my power to help them reach ascension.
ooh, I like that. Yeah. And we're about ascension is such a I love that. We're about to go into like all the religion the The Italian religious ones.
The Italian religious philosophers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of English as well.
Yeah.
Later on.
It's interesting because a lot of the like Ascension or Enlightenment, a lot
Yes,
of that
the Enlightenment
is
period.
reflected in the Asiatic, more
Yeah.
Eastern tradition.
Mm.
Because the whole point of Confucius's 100 laws,
His 100
basically,
laws.
was to just your interactions with other people affect both yourself and that other person. And if you can all just interact in this way to lead like a more of a perfect life and become a better person, then you will achieve enlightenment faster and bring about enlightenment for others.
Oh yeah. Oh, so then you're kind in a little bit. You're like Confucius.
The more like peaceful state of living.
Yeah.
Although I don't have laws that I follow when
Yeah.
interacting with other people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love how he's like, here's this relationship, and here's how this one
Like,
should go, and then
Confucius
here's
is
that one.
much more extreme.
Yeah.
But, like talent, like the whole, it's almost like the basic tenet in all Asiatic school of thought, because even with Taoism, like the point of what you were doing was if you are the most true to yourself, you allow that space for other people to be the most true for themselves, and then you balance each other out.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was like his middle way. Just like Buddhism, the middle path, living both extremes. You have extreme pleasure and extreme pain. You have extreme wealth, and then you have extreme lack.
Yeah.
If you go the middle path, if you go the middle way, you will reach enlightenment because you'll have experienced enough of both,
Yes.
or whatever.
No, I love. I'm thinking of one of the Enlightenment people. I think it might have been Aquinas. I'm not positive, but who is basically like, you should go, like every once in a while you should. He basically described like you should go camping. Like he was like, you should go out and like
connect with nature.
Yeah.
Very Caroline.
It might have been Aquinas. It might have been Augustine. I think Augustine is like more likely. But basically it was like, yeah, you don't need any like, you know, thing of substance to be happy. And they're like, you should go out and live in like a hut and like live in the rain and like eat poor man's bread. And I was like, so this dude is basically
Okay.
like,
The funny thing is, though, mostly with philosophers, it's funny that you should be like to be happy, because most philosophers never actually sought to
yeah,
be happy because they understood that happiness was a fleeting emotion.
yeah,
They almost always sought contentedness, a more like state of mind aspect, as opposed to like the feeling of
or like
joy.
they're like, how do I get rid of this like feeling of dread all the time? Yeah,
Existential.
yeah. It's like, what do I do?
Or that's what hedonism originally. I thought like hedon was really how do I maximize pleasure throughout my life. So he very much was like, don't overindulge. Like getting really drunk and getting a hangover is not actually an overall fun thing. But he was
Yeah.
like doing it.
Is he the one who first created the
Those resorts. He,
no, what do you call it? What do you call it when you stop smoking pot a little bit so that it hits harder the next time?
Probably he did.
oh, like edge play,
Yeah, right, edge play too. But he
like
he,
weed edge play.
well, now it's seen as like just a bunch of assholes practice hedonism or whatever. But yeah, originally it was like, no,
Ooh,
pace yourself was what he was all about.
Yeah,
So that you can.
Tolerance break.
Tolerance
breaks,
yeah. I like someone being like, dude, I'm practicing edge play with my weed, with my vape pen, bro.
Just take a little hit and then wait until it almost
And then
wears
wait.
off, and then I do a little more.
Yeah, but like, yeah, a lot of people think that hedonists come from I guess he took like what Epicurus like said, and he was like, I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna like listen to half of what he said, And people, there's like legends that Epicurus had like crazy feasts and like all these like things, but he didn't. He actually like had a really specific diet, and he was like really sick most of his life and died of like a terrible like stomach issue.
Oh.
And like did not experience very much pleasure at all. And he was like really shy around women because he was like, dude, my stomach is fucked. Like,
He was just
I have to
looking out
trust
for
you
the
to go on
rest of
a date, you know? I think, are we about to get timed out? I feel
us.
like
We got like 2 minutes left,
Okay.
probably. Out.
in this hour.
In this
we have like
hour.
a whole nother. We have a whole
So,
nother
Inst-
hour to go. of philosophy.
Instagram cuts us off at the hour, and then we've got to like post the episode.
Yeah, and then we come back. Yeah, it's weird.
So we'll take. Do we have anything else to say in this
Do
hour?
you have anything else to say?
I
while
just
you...
love your rendition of Buddha.
Right, thank you. I'm like, see, I'm
It goes with
unenlightened.
your hair really well too.
Right?
Like it's totally.
I
amazing.
take that as such a compliment because you're like an amazing. Anyone who
Yeah,
doesn't
your
know
beard
Adrian,
really matched your beard.
the curtains match the other curtains upstairs. The downstairs curtains match the upstairs curtains. Yeah, anyone who doesn't know Adrian who's on here, if you need any hair or beauty things, Adrian is the one. The one you have to go to.
The one true path.
Only
He is the
the
true-
magical hair shaman.
Yeah, 100%.
Shameless self-promoting.
Mhm.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you for joining our philosophical
And
salon this evening.
We'll be back in 5 minutes if you
Like
want to
in
see
5
if you
minutes.
want to see the other from enlightenment to
Oh yeah, I mean,
exist-
I have 45 minutes left in this.
Oh,
part,
yeah.
So I already
so
know how I'm
come
spending
back
my
in like 5 minutes when next you see us go live, and we will deliver a whole nother
Alright.
philosophy. All right, we're gonna post this episode. We'll be right
Yeah.
back.
Everybody else on the other platforms, I'm just gonna put it to like our starting soon screen, so no one freak out over on Twitch.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see.
We'll see you
We'll
soon.
see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Remove. All right. Oh yeah. Let's pose.
Now let's get some more poses.
Okay.
Yeah, I
think
can't
we
get my
got it.
tongue to my beard. That would be a disaster.
That's what she said.
It's getting real uncomfortable.
All right. Okay. We'll be back
Okay,
in
those of
5.
you on Twitch, I'm gonna mute and switch you over to the starting soon screen. I'll see you in just a minute, and this way the chat will stay up too.
Are we still streaming?
Over here, I was just responding to Richard over in the chat. IG is a harsh mistress and a rough critic.
Ooh, oh yeah, that's why Richard is on there because Facebook like banned
Oh,
him.
yeah, Instagram got mad at him. They
That's why he's
censor
on
his
here making
comments.
all his good comments, and I
Oh,
love
you're
it.
right. That's
He's
so funny.
escaping religious persecution.
Okay, I'm gonna switch you guys all over to the starting soon screen, and I'm gonna mute. Check, check. Oh, that's back. Look at that.
Huh.
Here's the intro song.
Yeah.
I believe that if we are honest with ourselves, that the most fascinating problem in the world is who am I? What do you mean? What do you feel?
My latest treatise over here.
When you say the word I myself. I don't think there can be any more fascinating preoccupation than that, because it's so mysterious, it's so elusive. Because what you are in your inmost being escapes your examination in rather the same way that you can't look directly into your own eyes without using a mirror. You can't bite your own teeth, and you can't touch the tip of this finger with the tip of this finger. And that's why there's always an element of profound mystery in the problem of who we are.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Or welcome back to
welcome back.
to Question Block Philosophy. How thoughtful.
Philosophy edition. How thoughtful. That introduction was Vivaldi's Four Seasons, including the dubstep remix. Vivaldi never released it in his own time, but he did record it. And
So you're like,
philosopher Alan Watts speaking over.
oh,
it.
Adrian's back. Hey.
Adrian, welcome back.
So you're like a super like Nietzsche gone wild,
Yes,
right?
Nietzsche gone wild, sort of.
and I am second wave Siddhartha before I became enlightened, and this is the period where I was trying to find happiness through bling bling.
Yes. Adrian did ask during the break if we're going to get into the Germans, and so the answer is no. Too much. You'll wash us out. Look at you're a ghost.
Okay. There we go.
Adrian asked if we'll get into the Germans, and yes, we're
We
going
will.
to talk about the
I
Germans.
do want this to be a little bit brighter if I could get it to be like
No,
that.
it's good. It's
Okay.
great.
All right.
It's really good.
I feel like it's.
No, you're practically radiant. You're glowing.
I mean, yeah, I'm like the vain second wave. I'm like,
Yeah.
Can-
We've
can
got
we
the two
see
cameras,
everything
but I
that's
don't want us to.
honey,
watch
how's
the-
everything?
looking.
How's everything tasting? How's everything?
Yes.
That's what Epicurus was.
Mhm.
Honey, how's everything tasting? And he was like, not good, because I have a stomach ulcer.
Stomach ulcer, but you gotta live it up while you can. As Epicurus
So-
would say. So now we've moved into the Enlightenment period.
Yes. Which is interesting because it's like right after the real Enlightenment period, which was in
Mhm.
the East. Like when I think of Enlightenment, I think of like the Buddha, me.
Well, it's a very Western.
This is the Western Enlightenment.
Well, it's also called the Enlightenment. It's the historical period after the Dark Ages, basically.
The dork
And,
ages.
and a lot of it was centered in. It was all like European based, but initially a lot centered like in Italy, but a decent amount in Germany as well. And then it's funny because England was pretty much, or like the UK or whatever, although now like a center of world civilization or whatever, or London and everything,
Right.
was a backwater up until like the 1700s, and no one cared about what they said.
So
Basically, Newton made them cool.
so we are going to talk about Machiavelli.
The Italian.
Machiavelli. Oh, Galileo's in here too.
Mhm.
But we're not really going to talk too much about him because he needs his whole episode on him.
Yeah.
We're not.
Well, he was
We
very
have
much
so
a
many.
natural scientist.
Yeah.
And we've been veering more towards the questions of the nature of being and the nature of knowledge. So this is Galileo.
and
We're gonna get into a lot of like the Germans,
Wait. But
Okay.
for right now, for the
Yeah.
Enlightenment, let's
Okay.
talk about. I'm just saying which ones
Descartes.
we're going to talk about. Yes, John Locke,
No,
Thomas Hobbes,
so we're gonna-
Calvin
no
Hobbes.
Galileo, no Copernicus.
Right. Let's
Who just
not-
rediscovered astronomy that the Greeks already
Yeah,
knew about.
exactly.
So, I mean, cool, but everybody you were around was an asshole. That doesn't.
So-
whatever.
people probably know about like not Martin Luther King, but like Martin Luther, who like nailed the like he was like I have something to say and I am gonna like he was like the original Banksy. He was like I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna like was he Banksy or was he like a guy who's like if you need someone to do your flyering, it's me.
he was just, I don't know, a street artist, but
Yeah, he wasn't really a street. Oh,
Can we let Vemnick join us? We don't. They get the idea. They don't need the full preview.
well, no, I was okay. So yeah,
Oh, Newton's in there as a philosopher. Look at that.
yeah.
I think of him too as more of a mathematician, like natural scientist. But all right, they were still figuring out the difference back then.
Yeah, so Machiavelli. Everyone
Are
thinks
you gonna
so.
jump into him?
Yeah, I'm gonna just talk about. Oh, it's funny. He's on there, but he's not on here.
Oh,
We see him. It's so funny. He's with us on Twitch.
why isn't the computer showing him?
You mean the iPad? I don't know. Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna start talking about.
Is this all? That's so funny.
It is. It
What's
is.
going on?
I don't know. I'm gonna start talking about Machiavelli while this tries to connect.
Yeah, let me cancel and we'll retry.
Okay, you
You
do whatever
continue-
you want
alright,
to do.
you
I'm gonna
talk-
keep talking about
please-
Machiavelli.
please
Somebody
continue.
to get through.
Distinguished scholar, please continue lecture.
Okay, so what do you think of when someone says that they're Machiavellian?
They're conniving. They're scheming.
Right. So a lot of people think that because Machiavelli. Hey, what's up?
Wow.
Hello, it worked.
Hi.
It's so funny. It like
Hi.
worked on Twitch.
It also says hi.
Hi. Hello.
I love the beards.
Thank you. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
Neil. Are they real?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it's
been-
Movember, you know.
it's
After all.
Movember. We have to support men's health.
Yep.
Ariel, you're giving me. You remember that the dude on or the trans woman on? I actually don't know how they identify. But the person who won Eurovision.
Yes. Oh my God.
You're
Oh,
giving me very much that vibe.
thank you. I'm going for like second wave Siddhartha, like before.
Yeah, you're going
And this
for
is like
a decadent Siddhartha.
a decadent
yeah,
Siddhartha.
a decadent Buddha before enlightenment.
Love me a Sid part 2.
Sid Part 2, and
Yeah.
this is like Nietzsche gone wild.
That's the best
Yeah,
we've got,
I
I
mean,
think.
or rah Rasputin.
Yeah, I mean we're talking about philosophy.
Could be a Rasputin.
I can tell.
Maybe like a. Did Thoreau have a beard? I look like a wild man who could be like living in a cabin.
Okay, I'm gonna find a picture of Nietzsche.
Thoreau almost definitely had a beard. That's
Yeah,
just,
right?
Like, so on
If you're gonna live in the woods in New England for,
But I feel like Nietzsche was like
a
a
year?
redhead, like you,
I don't know, he was
I have no idea.
and he had a crazy mustache.
he had
Well, you have
he
a
had
crazy-
a,
remember
he
we
had a
went to
crazy
Walden.
mustache. Yeah.
For some like school trip.
Nice.
It's a pond. It's fine.
It's fine. I
So
love
you
it.
saw a cabin.
It's just like they're like this is just like any pond.
Yeah, it's like Edgar Allan Poe's room. I went to UVA for college, and they preserved Edgar Allan Poe's room,
Oh,
like
I saw that with you.
on the lawn.
Yeah,
And you look in, you're like,
it's like the
it's
allegory of the
just
cave.
a room, but they put a raven in it, just so you would know.
They put a heart under the floor too.
Oh, good. Oh, the hair.
Oh no!
Yeah. I'm in it for the long haul.
I gotta
As
take
you
a,
know,
I gotta
Buddha,
take a little break.
Siddhartha, you know, me, sat under a tree for like 40 days, so I have
Yeah.
commitment.
I know. I honor your stoicism.
Nietzsche just God is dead, and that's all you need to know. Who's your favorite philosopher or
I
philosophy?
don't know.
So
I
I'll
feel like
so if,
recently I've been getting into like both like a lot of communist philosophy, so
Mhm.
like
Marx, yeah.
Engels, obviously. I like Foucault.
Mm.
No,
Everyone-
Foucault.
It was like
Everybody likes good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like the defining struggles of modern society in the 20th and 21st centuries are going to be money and power. And I know that sounds like very, very general and vague, but like
Philosophy often is.
I think Marx helps put into sort of focus the idea that like money isn't this thing that's like everlasting. It's not essential.
Yeah, it's people.
It's something that we created, and capital is something like we created.
Yeah, we can talk about. We can take a little fast
philosophers?
forward. Yeah, yeah. Marx.
Where had you been?
We were at the
Philosophy-wise.
Enlightenment.
We're
Well,
kicking
we
off
can
the
go-
Enlightenment.
we
We
can
did.
go
We
back
talked
to
about the
Enlightenment
classical
after.
period and the Athenians and some,
I mean, the
Confucius and
Enlightenment's
some
interesting.
Chinese and Buddhists.
It's like I feel like a lot of the
The social contract.
Yep,
yeah,
the social contract.
and just sort of like the birth of liberalism.
Which
So, like,
the
So-
social contract.
Locke, Hobbes,
Yeah.
Calvin. Just
Well,
kidding.
We'll summarize
Calvin.
because Calvin and Hobbes actually had very similar philosophies, just from different points. So,
Yeah.
which is much like the comic you've seen.
I think like obviously the ideals of the Enlightenment and liberalism are
Locke. It's quintessentially Locke.
they're very important
Yeah.
and like what we should be striving for. But if you actually like go through and look through like what those Enlightenment authors were saying, there were a lot of exceptions being made in
Yeah.
terms of those ideas of personal liberty. I can't remember which philosopher said it, but one of them basically said that like India shouldn't be able to rule itself until the British teach them
Yeah, because
how
they
to
were.
rule themselves
yes.
properly. And it's like you can see the move towards a more enlightened form of thinking, but you can also see like the justifications for colonialism and slavery baked into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, just like right in the Constitution, even right, and it's like the whole concept of who can be even. It's like, well, no, you just stop treating white male landowners poorly.
quiet down, white male landowner.
But
I
other
like
so
people,
much of-
other people didn't even count for them as like citizens, or if it would even like right. They didn't
Well,
even,
this is slightly before it, but it does set up there. The interesting thing that I like took away from this is like the a lot of them described like natural law, and that was like basically like all humans are pieces of shit. Like
Like
If-
the idea of state of nature.
yeah, natural. Yeah, wait, let me. Can you?
that's very Hobbes and Calvin.
Yeah, that's
They
what I'm
believe
talking
that
about.
natural law
That's-
is terrible.
Right?
Locke
Can
was
I?
an optimist.
Can I finish my thought before
Okay.
you like? This is my way of putting it to like everyone who's
Alright.
tuning in who like wants to learn stuff. Is like they basically thought that humans were like if their natural state of being was like that movie the Purge.
Yeah,
like
or
that-
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so like they were like, yeah, you can't trust people, like they're really terrible, but there is that's where like the social contract comes in, like there is this like decency that we've agreed upon.
Yeah, who wrote Leviathan?
That's
That
Hobbes.
was Hobbes, yeah.
That was Hobbes. And so, like, his sort of take on it is, like, yeah, that if left to their own devices, humans will just, like, fucking destroy each other.
Yeah,
But sort of the place he takes that is that we need, like, to consolidate power.
yes.
Yeah.
You need the iron fist of a dictator.
If there's anything that we've learned about the past, from the past maybe 500 years, but definitely the past, like, 200 years, is the more that power is consolidated, the worse the
Yeah.
general populace is.
And then what do you think of, we were just want to talk about Machiavelli. Do you think The Prince is satire or real? Like, do you think he was joking? Because that's like a theory out there that the prince, his book on how to
rule.
win friends and influence, how to win power.
If you're an
and
Italian prince.
Yeah.
Like, it probably doesn't even really matter.
Sure.
Like, you know, most of philosophy isn't really, it's not saying, like, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. It's often more descriptive.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that one's just more like, you can look at the prince as a way of, like, describing what, like, tyrannical power, how tyrannical power is justified in the mind of a tyrant. I think that's what it's best for.
Yeah, but although it's funny because it's kind of like he was like, look, it's people always think that they always say that it is a quotation like by him that it's better to be feared than loved, but he actually said it's better to be both. But like if you had to choose, it's better.
No,
the Michael. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Yeah, the Michael Scott take on that is I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Well, he said a ruler has to have the ferocity of a lion to frighten those who seek to dispose him, and they also must have the cunningness of a fox to recognize the snares and traps. But he was like, look, if you have to be a lion, be a lion. If you have to be a fox, like, be a fox. But
can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Because there's a Machiavelli quote that I really love, actually. Because early on, because this was like 1500s, right? Early 1500s. He wrote about how much he loved owning a library because he got exiled, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he was exiled to like kind of the foothills, like outside Florence, but they were like, you can't come to the city.
A huge prick.
Yeah, and the Medici was like, dude, you can't be. It was like the Skulls Society it was like the fraternity, and they were like, bro, you like. You seriously
Maybe that's
like
what it was. Maybe Machiavelli was just like an epic troll.
Yeah,
probably. That's why
the Medici were like, "You're blowing up our spot. Get the fuck out of Florence."
Yeah, and so they deplatformed him out of Florence.
So they deplatformed him, but he wrote a really nice. It's like
look at this picture
several pages on his love of reading.
He looks like a baby. Like,
well, they all did that.
That was his
style at the time.
I love his little thing, like his little how high his little thing goes. Okay.
He does have this whole great descriptive passage, and he says, "In the evening, like I go out and I have to like look at my because he was still wealthy and owned all this fucking land.
So look at all my land.
He was like, I check my land and I like do my accounts and like being like a nobleman or whatever during the day, and then in the evening I put on my finest clothes and I go into my library and I talk to the greatest sages of the ages or whatever, and I get to talk to Plato and Pythagoras and like in all my full library or whatever, and I get to consult with all these like brilliant people, and so I like that even in like the early 1500s he was like one of the coolest things you can do is actually read because you get to talk with the smartest people from all of history in your own way, and you actually like he kind of writes about as you read a really great book you develop this conversation in your head with the author. And you almost create a little mini model of them, right? If you're you read a great book and you can even write in the sort of voice of that author for a little bit.
Like Plato.
Anyway, that's a very cool,
like Plato.
Right?
Cool side note, not about philosophy. Machiavelli, big proponent of reading. He loved books.
I feel like a lot of philosophers probably liked books.
He wrote about it very eloquently.
Leather bound. I have many leather bound. You have books too.
I mean, as you can tell, yes, by our chambers as well.
We have to talk about Spinoza.
Those three-dimensional books behind you.
Yes,
Spinoza. The Jewish one.
Tell us about Spinoza.
I mean, he was awesome because he saw like his friend. He saw his friend get like brutally murdered, like the most murdered, and then parts of his friends.
Not cool.
Yeah, it was not cool. And parts of this guy, like he was murdered, and then people like took parts of his body. Like they were like, "Ooh, give me his hand. Like I want that." And they like he saw his friend's body be like proliferated like around the town for like as a display of like whatever because his friend like.
Really insensitive question.
Yeah. What?
If your friend murdered, and this starts happening. It's like, oh shit, like, my friend died, he's been dismembered in public, people are now, like, auctioning off his parts,
Yeah.
do you feel like compelled to buy a part? And if so, which part?
His heart.
Our fight takers, Bug Blazing over too. Oh, you do the Mary Shelley.
I do the Mary Shelley.
You get your lover's heart and
Yep.
preserve it in a box for the next 80
I
years.
put it under the floor like Poe. No.
She put it in a
Mary Shelley
drawer.
did not fall out.
No. Well, also her husband Percy Bysshe Shelley's heart didn't burn because he was cold as he was ice cold. But anyway,
Or calcium.
so Spinoza was
Yeah.
like,
Again,
so he saw this person be killed because of like what they had to say, basically, and he was like, that is not going to stop me for like figuring out. He sort of mixed science and God, like logic and God, and not belief. He like tried to find sort of like a scientific
So
proof
he was a
of
heretical
God.
Jew.
And people, I forget who it was, but they were like, dude, shut up. Like, I think like his landlord, not his landlord, but like, everyone was like, dude, shut up, you're gonna die like your friend. And they offered to pay him what would be equivalent to like a 6-figure salary to just shut up and like stop researching and writing. And he was like, no, like, I must find the answer. So he basically said every object in the universe, even rocks, have a body and a mind. Body and mind are attributes of substance, and then substance is God. So his thing was like,
He's like an animist.
well, he was like, God isn't like in the heavens. God is kind of everywhere, but also God doesn't give a fuck about you. Like, you give a fuck about God, which I think is pretty cool. It's very Jewish like mysticism.
I love those types of like classifications of God, and then there's also like this small part of me that's like, it kind of feels like you're hedging your bets here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when I grew up, I was sold on the like, you know, omnipotent being type person, and it's like, it's not like, you know, we don't do it with Santa Claus, right?
Right.
We don't go, well, actually, Santa Claus is just the presents that we give each other, right?
Right. Yeah. True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Or like, oh, it's Santa.
It's like, you don't necessarily, like, I mean, I guess I'm an atheist, and I don't believe in God, but I do believe in, like, the supreme, wondrous beauty of the universe.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's, even if it's all chaotic, I think that we as humans have an ability and potentially even a duty to assign meaning in those ways.
So that's kind of like it's a little bit Camus, which I'm gonna keep bringing him up. I'm gonna find Camus in everyone because he's like my favorite. Because because Camus was like the simple things are like very beautiful, and we shouldn't forget that. And like he has his quotation about like the eternal summer, and he was like, I had to find within myself an eternal summer, like in the depths of
Adrian
winter.
is dying. He wants some.
Oh, he wants Thomas Aquinas. Okay, all right.
Adrian,
we didn't talk about Thomas Aquinas.
Adrian wanted Aquinas, and he wanted some Germans.
I don't know much about Aquinas.
Okay. So Aquinas came actually a little bit before. He came in the medieval.
Kayla, do you want to hop in on Aquinas?
Yeah.
Listen.
Kayla just wants to listen.
Oh,
Okay, so Aquinas.
Kayla's playing Brick Breaker on her
No,
phone.
I'm not. Cartoons.
She's looking at cartoons.
Oh, much more.
So he came around in the medieval world, which is a little bit before the Enlightenment, but we kind of skipped over that, so we gotta.
Wait, somebody just dropped. Oh, Adrian just dropped a mini essay.
Thomas
on
Aquinas, the
for
five.
God existed.
5 methods for bringing out existence for amazing first time.
Right.
Time over the first cause, the necessary being for the absolute being of the grand designer. So there was a lot of proof of God around this time, right? So there is Aquinas, and then Descartes later had like his own proof of God.
So he was
using logical deduction and methods.
through
basically.
Aristotle's.
My favorite of those is Pascal.
Well, Blase, Pascal, Pascale.
Well, I don't know his first name, but the
His-
wager, which basically just like, once again, it's philosophy hedging its bets,
Mhm.
which I guess I kind of love.
Mhm.
So So Aquinas used Aristotle's like proofs to prove God. Like he was very influenced by Aristotle.
So the irony there being that Aristotle was like, we don't need mystical things, we find truth by observing the natural world around us.
So this was
very kind of like a major influence for the later scientific method. By talking about natural observation to understand
this was
the
his
universe.
his path thought.
And then Aquinas took
thought path.
Aristotle's methods to prove God.
So he said Aristotle says that the universe has always existed. The Bible says that the universe has not always existed. And then he was like, the world did have a beginning, but God could have created it in such a way that it existed eternally, which is like, for all those smoking up out there, your brain probably just...
He was like, how can we reconcile these two beliefs? He wrote it more eloquently,
I
guess, but...
Here's a picture of this. Ready?
If the universe is infinite...
It's just the infinite world.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Twitter account, science diagrams that look like shit posts?
Yep, that's exactly.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That looks like one of those.
So, a lot of the commonality in all these arguments of like proof of God is that there's a bunch of assumed priors, right? So we'll get into Descartes in a bit too, or we can even jump around. But like the whole Descartes was I think therefore I am.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, how can I find truth in anything? If logically I can doubt everything. I can doubt reality, I could doubt anything. But by virtue of me being a mind that exists that is doing the doubting, I must exist.
Descartes?
It's the one thing I can prove.
Freaking loved thinking.
You're butchering.
Butchering
Aquinas.
everything.
Aquinas? We're butchering.
Yeah, go back. You're making him so.
Okay, so Aquinas basically used. So here, can I talk? Okay, so here's something humanizing about Aquinas. He was very like self-hating, like growing up, and he felt like this emptiness because he was surrounded by religious people, and his mother was like a very famous religious person, I believe, and he felt that he needed like some piety in his life. But he was just very like unsatisfied and very like thirsty for God, but also proof that God existed.
Much like the Buddha.
Vanity, do you want to hop on? I feel like we should. This person really wants to hop on.
Oh, Adrian.
Adrian knows so much about philosophy,
we'll
and
let
I think we're driving him crazy.
We can let Adrian hop
I'll learn
on.
with you guys.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick guest spot back to revered philosopher Adrian.
Yeah.
Gratitude by Adrian. Losing his mind as we fuck up Aquinas.
I love that he's so.
Oh,
Hello.
hi. Guess who's in NYC now?
Oh, welcome back.
Oh, he came back.
Are
from
you walking
Delaware.
through Penn Station?
No, I walked.
He's like,
from
I'm
Penn
at
Station
Secret
over
Loft.
to Herald Square, so I can. I was literally about to get on the train to fucking show up at the loft and be like, "Bitches, how dare you?"
Okay, sort it out. Sort us out on Aquinas.
So first of all, Aquinas.
I love the tongue pop.
love. I just love the way he went about trying to prove that God existed. In that he took everything that science demanded was real, science at that time, and said, okay, well, we all exist, and we were all made. Wait, this is out of order. He's the prime mover, so first of all, he says all things in motion are put in motion. Nothing is in motion naturally.
Right, like the
its own volition.
like this
so
thing.
Something has to move it first.
Like that, right? That the thing that's always
scientific diagram that looks like a shippost.
No,
and
you know that
something
the thing is that
kinetic
therapist.
energy is God.
No, it's true. If momentum and energy are conserved, then what put it into place?
Yeah. So this
Fair
diagram.
question.
It's a person must have caused this Newton's cradle to swing, but does the existence of the universe itself have a cause?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mhm.
Then he went on to posit, what is the order? He's the prime mover, the primary cause. So if all things have a cause and effect,
Mhm.
and all things are brought about by cause and effect, then there stands to reason that there must have been a primary cause
Mhm.
for there to have been the first effect, and that would be God. God was the first
The
cause.
first cause. So God starts that Newton's cradle going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then
And
it
then-
keeps going.
So the second and third, because he had five proofs for God. The third and fourth, personally, I feel like a little bit the same.
Little dicey. Okay.
But,
What do you have? The human soul?
Well, it's more like everything is brought into being. So nothing just like spontaneously exists, right?
Yeah.
We have yet observed something just spontaneously exist. So everything is brought about something. So he is the necessary being, the
Oh,
first something that brought about the other somethings that brought about everything.
Mhm.
But then also he says that God is the absolute being. So we're all constantly evolving, and we're evolving towards like a more perfect, wholesome, better thing.
Mhm.
And God is supposed to be the like ultimate evolution.
Mm.
Like when you can't digivolve anymore, then you're God.
Oh, yeah. He said we should see whether there is a contradiction between something being created by God and its existing forever.
Mm.
God could have made the universe without humans and then made them. And then made the
Okay.
humans.
And then I think his last one. What was his last one?
So this doesn't
Wow.
have. It doesn't have the five. It literally just has.
Five proofs.
Yeah, it has.
Somebody paid attention in psychology 101. Or
I don't know.
philosophy
This is
101,
I don't.
sorry.
This is theology. It's
Theology
Kristen.
101.
So wait, you
So
have
But this was
the prime
philosophy
mover,
kind of throughout the
first
Enlightenment.
effect,
There was a lot of
here.
government and
the
God.
necessary being, the absolute being,
I'm gonna
and
look up
then
this.
I feel like I messaged this earlier. I had them, and
You
now
do.
I can't remember the
Let me
last
scroll up and I'll tell you what you sent us.
Okay.
The prime mover you got. The first cause, yes.
Okay, wait. I
The
got it.
necessary being, the absolute
I
being,
got it.
and the grand designer.
The unmoved mover. Wait, I got it. The unmoved mover, the first cause, the necessary being, the absolute being, and the grand designer, Hunty.
So the grand designer is actually my favorite.
Mhm.
It's my favorite too.
Because he
Who-
kind of
who
like
started fashion.
names intuition as God, kind of, sort of. He says, we all are born. We somehow know how to do things that we haven't been taught, like breathe. We eventually learn how to walk, but we don't necessarily need someone to show us that. Just like with animals, like elephants are born and they can walk within hours, you know?
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, how is that? That's
He's
literally
like, that's wild. Yeah. The final cause.
I don't know that you need a god to answer that question, but okay.
Well, I mean, Thomas was like, yeah, that's definitely God. But the thing about Thomas is that he later then kind of broadens the spectrum on his idea of God, like later in his life, and starts to refer almost more to like this like energetic being of love and the concept of love as an energy.
Yeah.
And then he talks a lot about how like love is a thing that is shared, almost like it's a physical object. So he attributes like almost currency to the idea of both love and God.
Yeah, and it says that he was the only person, or like he was the first person to seamlessly like unify Aristotle, who's like very scientific, and then like theology.
Yeah, the Christians were like, nice.
Yeah,
You've
they were
used
like,
logic.
high five, bro.
I've used logic to prove God. And then Descartes was in the same kind of school, I guess, of
Yeah.
like writers who
He wrote
Descartes proving kind of
Meditations.
like, well, the proof of existence, or like how to like
Wait.
how do you count it out?
So I was gonna say Descartes. He freaking loved to think. Like apparently he like, yeah, he went inside of like a large like bread oven or something and just like hung out in there and like for like a whole day. And people were like, "What were you doing in there?" And he was like, "I was
mean, that
thinking."
sounds like a blast.
That's a
Right?
sensory deprivation.
He was like in the
tank,
sauna.
right?
He was like, "I was thinking." It was very fun.
People pay good money for that in New York. I mean, it's $45 an hour for a sensory deprivation tank.
So yeah, we'll get on to the Germans because I feel like you also that was another perspective.
He just loved the smell of bread.
It's
which is
such an easy jump to go from the Italians to the Germans because you have, what was his name? The supposed co-author of the Malus Maleficarum.
Oh.
Along with Henrik Kramer.
Yeah.
Who was a Dominican Italian philosopher.
Which is like, he must have been really hot.
Italian.
I mean, okay, also, like, he actually hated Heinrich.
Yeah, he did.
And, like, he despised him. And, like, literally any time, like, it was supposed to be almost like a joke that he was the co-author of that book.
Yeah, which is...
But you have philosophers that then are shaping the world, like, literally the world we live in now. Machiavelli, with his being the father of political science.
Yeah.
And then you have someone like Heinrich Kramer, who literally all he wanted to do was gain more power for himself.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, like, because for Italian, they were, like, very closely tied in with the Medici, and they were, like, and the Medici was like, yes, spread knowledge about, like, things that won't mess us up, and then if they, like, Machiavelli, if they stepped over that line, Medici was like, you're out of the frat, bro. Or, like, Pico Mirandola, who we talked about on the occult episode. Just one real quick thing about Mirandola, like, because he really wanted to, like, translate these occult texts, and, like, he actually very strongly believed that your name influenced what you do. So, like, he would love that my name is Ariel and I'm an Arianist.
He would love that.
He loved aptonyms, and there was originally, like, a saying that was, like, nombre, like, omen, basically, like, your name is a sign. Yeah. And I forget what Mirandola's, like, name means, but he actually, like, wrote a bunch of texts on, like, trying to prove that, like, your name really decided what you do. That's just a little... He was an Italian, though. Tied in with the Medici.
That's a dumb philosophy.
Yeah. I just had to mention it because I think it's cute. And we talked about him in our occult.
So,
well, I mean, stemming from the whole occult, because obviously is an occult adjacent text. But the implications of that book have bled over to, like, literally today.
Yeah.
That book, his ideas are what pressed, like, the oppression of women. Without him, we probably wouldn't have feminism today.
Yeah.
Like, he just essentially was like, okay. He saw that before the Catholic Church came over and everything, you had these medicine women who were like, your healers, who fucking lived to old age and actually knew how to, like, use herbal sciences to heal. And, like, wanted to grab more power. Technically for the church, that was his, like, excuse, but really it was for him. And said that he essentially created this idea. Like, he didn't create witches because the Bible does actually mention witches,
Yeah.
but it only mentions it 3 times in the entire text. He inflated it and defined what the word witches meant, really. And he originally witches was a non-gendered word, but because most of the physician, like the
Oh.
medicine
Midwives.
people that you would go to were women,
Yeah.
he sexed the word so that he would have power to get rid of these women and install power for himself.
So and also we like totally skipped out on the
The Hermetic order.
not the Hermetic order, the
Wait,
Hippocratic
Wait,
oath.
what Adrian's describing, by the way, is exactly what happened in America in like the 1800s, when basically physicians became organized, and originally giving birth and like was done by midwives in the house, and it was primarily something done by women, and it was an actual like organized movement from like the American Medical Association and these like doctors organizations who were primarily men to basically make giving birth something that happened in a hospital that had to be done by a doctor. And so they moved
And
it
I mean,
from...
they didn't fully use the same exact playbook, but they definitely took pages from it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's funny that history repeats itself in that sense, right? And that
yeah.
it's like taking what is, was then primarily like women's work and done by like a trusted like family friend or someone in your community, and moving it into like a setting that has to be done by like an authoritarian like man in power.
Yeah, and this was like way back, but the Hippocrates, the Hippocratic oath, I was reading a little bit about that because talking about like medicine.
Yeah.
And like they, even though it was like forever ago, they had so much right that like doctors should remember today, which is like they would really avoid surgery at all costs, and they would often like suggest like dietary advice, and they would look at the body as a whole. Like they would be like, oh, this is hurting you. Like, how's your mental state? Like, are you getting enough exercise? Like, and they would really treat the body as a whole. And that was like in the original Hippocratic oath.
As a trainer and healer.
Yeah.
A thing that personally very much bugs you about.
Yeah, is that
of medicine.
at least Western medicine, like it treats symptoms and it doesn't treat the body as like a whole. It chases pain.
Yeah. It's like, let's do surgery right on your knee.
Yeah.
Rather than like, analyze
treat everything around it.
Anyway,
but
that's going to be another episode.
That'll be another one. Yeah, we can talk about.
We're going to have a fitness episode. It's going to be great.
So.
Okay, I am now going to get on the train, so I'm going to pass you back to whoever was on before.
You've been inside Penn Station, it feels
I
like.
will be listening in.
Okay, so we're going to talk about
I want to get
existentialists.
We should get Lily on because she knows a ton of religious philosophy. And I think she's watching.
Does she? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Lily. Okay.
Enjoy your train.
Enjoy
Welcome
your
back
train.
to New York. We'll see you soon.
Bye. All right. I really want to get into the existentialists though, because
We'll bring her on for that.
Okay.
She's well read.
All right, Lily, if you're here with us, you got to scroll and find her. You can take care of that.
I will
get into
okay,
the
you start talking about the
existentialists.
existentialists.
So there's Kierkegaard. There's Kant. Kant even. There's Camus, and who's the other one? Oh, you put your thing on.
Oh, Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Lily.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good. So you guys are talking philosophy?
Yes.
Mhm.
I just finished a book
Yeah.
about the personification of the city of New York, and there's multiverses in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm.
What philosophy would that be like akin
I don't really know, but there's a scientific theory about multiverses. Like, it's a somewhat legitimate theory, I guess.
What? Okay, explain it.
So I think the idea is that there's, like, I don't know if it's infinite, but simultaneous universes that exist, like, alongside each other.
We talked about that in the very, very beginning. We talked about Pythagoras had, like, a cult, a triangle cult, and he was, like, he thought that because he was obsessed with the number 10, he thought that there was like a 10th celestial.
No, not that. Lily's talking about it's a
What?
valid theory in quantum mechanics that Lily's talking
But
about.
no, but he
multiverses.
agreed in a multiverse too. He thought there was like another Earth hidden, like a
That's another Earth. She's talking about a verse.
well, they just extrapolate on his multi-Earth. If he could imagine the universe, then he would have agreed. He would be like, there has to be
Like-
10 to the 10th
If I could,
universe.
what I will say,
Oh my
Lily. A
goodness.
funny thing is, among the physicists of Stanford University, who I did study with, while getting my doctorate
growing your beard.
of philosophy. It really is. You get deep enough into physics and it becomes philosophy because you hit upon so much that's just like beyond any intuitive understanding of how reality works that you
I'll
know
look
as a
into some
human,
of these.
and it becomes very much what is the nature. And it's like
Yeah.
weird questions come up. Really, you're like, why does this physical system it seeks the lowest energy state? How the fuck does it know to do that? And it just
Yeah.
and the answer is just like that's what reality does. It really is mind-boggling. And so Richard Feynman, like great physicist, but very much also a philosopher. If we want to fast forward all the way to like late 1900s, but he posed a lot of these things, and he's like, you almost need to treat it as if it is a god. It's almost like you walk out of the room and the objects get moved around, and you kind of just guess at who moved them. Is like
Yeah.
his analogy. So multiverses are from quantum mechanics, which you probably have a good understanding about. A power verse.
A power verse.
Yes.
I'm a musical verse. I'm a catchy
Well,
verse.
so there's this guy Karl Popper from. We all know how he got that name. He loved doing poppers. No, so he said so. Insofar as a scientific statement speaks about reality, it must be falsifiable. So he was like talking a lot about this. That basically, like, what do we know? What's reality? Like, is our life a dream? And also, actually, Descartes also taught, one of his guiding like things was like, how do I know that I'm not dreaming? And he was like, oh, because I'm thinking.
But the multiverse is actually, it's a very specific thing where it comes from. Is that in quantum mechanics, because you can have this whole idea of superposition of states. I can have
Yeah.
a subatomic particle or an electron that it goes through a detector, and I built experiments that studied this kind of stuff on a microscopic level. Sorry to bore everyone, but there is cool philosophy behind it. Real quick, give me 1 minute. You're like the electron. Electrons have a magnetic field associated with them. You call it spin. It's called spin. Spin up or spin down is how it is. And so when you see a magnet, that's all the electrons in the magnet have the same spin. That's how magnets, how the fuck do they work? But anyway, when an electron, if you don't know the spin, it is actually can be both spin up and spin down at the same time. And that's where the whole metaphor of Schrodinger's cat comes from. The cat can be, the cat is in a box and we can't see its state, the cat is both dead and alive at some point. So that's a real state. And the thing is, Einstein hated this. And Einstein actually was opposed to the quantum mechanical interpretation of the universe until he died, basically.
Probably because he didn't get to quantum mechanics in school. He was like...
no, it didn't exist at the time.
Yeah.
But even Einstein
didn't
like the idea. He was like, is the moon not there if we aren't looking at it? And it's like...
That also is...
Or that's what quantum mechanics actually is, a lot of things. So an electron spin is only determined once you measure it. I want to get this in because you want to jump in. I just want to finish this.
I'm saying that Descartes said something very similar. I'm like adding to your. He was saying something very similar about just like how do we know what's real and not. I'm just trying to relate to it because I relate to things in like a humanities.
But I want to jump to a very neat thing that is currently the Nobel Prize winners and many of the most brilliant people on the planet don't like really question the nature of reality themselves. So philosophy is once again conjoined with natural sciences.
Oh, Jesse's here.
As it started 2,500 years ago, which is pretty sweet. So the multiverse interpretation is that when I measure my electron and when it goes through my detector, it really was the way the math works out. You can kind of, there are thought experiments to prove this, that it really was in both states at the same time. And when I measure it, it will come out as one state or the other.
It collapses.
And you collapse, and so when they talk about collapsing, is there is a mathematical equation that describes the state of the spin of that, and you collapse the eigenfunction, it's called, into a measurable value. And the multiverse interpretation says what you actually just did is split off the universe into two different versions, and you're now living in the one where the particle is in that state.
Wait.
And there is another multiverse out there where the particle's in the other state.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's kind of like that decision tree. Like, you know, there's like the decision tree with like the forks, where it's like if you cross the street, that you're living this life where like all the decisions with crossing the street. But then if you cross the street and take a right, there's that world. But then there's crossing the street and taking a left, and then there's like the fork of not crossing the street.
So there are many people who, it's a way to, that's also a way to think of time travel,
also
actually.
a way to have a crazy trip if you take acid.
So time travel is
so that's what was in my book that I read.
This is a fictional book. Nice.
What book is this?
Okay, let me look at it. It's called The City We Became. It's science fiction by a black female author. And her name is N.K. Jemisin.
That's a really cool name. It's like N.K.
It looks, I'm not good at this, but like that.
Ooh.
Oh, yes!
Oh, Jesse just bought it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically about New York, like, coming to life and punching through the box.
Wait, so we were, okay, so
That's amazing.
this actually really relates to what we were getting into the existentialists, and no, and so Kant, so, you know, I was saying Descartes was part of his part of his, like, original thought experiments are, like, how do we know that the world that we're living in is real, and how do I know that, like, I'm not dreaming? So Kant, like, he, like, Descartes was, like, put these ideas in motion, but Kant questioned the nature of time and consciousness and the problem of science and how it understands the exterior world. So his, like, thought passage was, our sensibility is to sense the things in the world around us. Our understanding is the ability to think about things. Space and time cannot be learned through experience. They are intuitions of the mind. A thing appears in space and time only insofar as it is sensed by our minds. Concepts only apply to things insofar as they are sensed by our minds. A thing in and of itself, something considered exterior to our minds, which may have nothing to do with space and time or any of our concepts. Things in themselves are unknowable, and then he came to the conclusion, there are two worlds, the worlds of experience sensed by our bodies and the world as it is in itself.
Oh, that's the allegory of the cave, just said differently.
Well, yeah, I mean, they kind of, I mean, there's Descartes and then Hume.
I fucking can't even with this
You
guy
can't
plagiarizing Socrates.
That's so stupid.
Well, and he was basically like, we don't like know anything other than what we can sense. But science would tell us that there are things that we can't sense out there. And it's very Buddhist.
So Lily, if you had a guiding philosophy
Yes.
for your life, or if you have an own personal philosophy that's a mix of other thinkers, who do you think it is? Who would it be?
I'm not sure about the thinkers.
Well,
Like, I don't know what my philosophy maps to.
you could tell us what it is, and we'll try to find
but
one.
there are like some general principles. Let's see. I think that unlearning matters, in the same way kind of that learning does.
Unlearning. Yeah, I'm like, I remember there is someone who talked about that, like well, I would say Nietzsche was saying that, like, so his whole, like, God is dead thing, he was saying that, like, the way that we used to learn was very interesting, and, like, very, like, in like Greek time, like the ancient Greece, they had, like, plays and, like, tragedies for catharsis and things like that, and today, like, learning is very boring and, like, sort of, like, makes people Yeah, and he was basically saying like God is knowledge, kind of, and like this, but God is dead because learning is dead, and so it's up to us to like bring him back through our through our knowledge and through our learning. He also, I mean, I don't know. I feel like all artists, as you are like a musician, I feel like all artists are a little bit existential. Because I feel like existentialism is like why, like what's my purpose? What's the meaning? And it's like life is meaningless, or life is like it doesn't have a purpose. But once you accept that and you can like sort of laugh at it, or create art to deal with it.
Philosophy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But also, you could be like, I mean, I think it was Pythagoras. He had like he was said to have perfect pitch, and he was said to create all these theories about music, and how music, like because he was like, yeah, every action in life has a specific music note that goes with it.
I like that.
It should be a key.
Or a key. I don't know anything. Yeah, it was a key, a specific key. And he apparently...
We talked about that, yeah.
He was told... He was
like
said
you're walking, that's like a jaunty C major.
Yeah,
like
that was...
sad,
So you
like
might be
an
a
A minor.
Pythagoras.
And you're like extra deep sad
that.
is an E minor.
Like, that speaks.
Yeah, so you might be a Pythagorean.
You're feeling all mysterious and sexy.
Yes.
Yeah, he was very mysterious.
Honestly, I feel like him and I
minor 7.
He liked triangles. You like terrariums, which are like little triangle things.
I love triangles. Anything that's like distinct.
I think we found your philosopher.
I think your love of geometry would align you a lot with Pythagoras and his cult of shapes.
That's
if it's not a right angle, it's a wrong angle. That's what he always said. Yeah, girl. Honey.
I was just thinking in my head before we let you go because I want to get Jesse in.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Our Buddhist.
We have a Buddhist scholar joining us, but real quick, I was going to say, analyzing Lily Wolf lyrics.
Yeah.
The song "Play the Game" is very Machiavellian.
Oh,
There's like an existentialist Sylvia Plath in there. That Little Bones song about is like ship's call from distant shores kind of thing has really great poetic lyrics. And it's, what is Terrible Mistake, I would say, is a very kind of Hobbesian sort of like the nature of life is nasty, brutish and short.
Terrible. Well, it could also be like Nietzsche. It could be like Nietzsche though, because Nietzsche said that, but then he was like,
the point of the show is it's really never right, but it's entertaining.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But yeah, I think Pythagoras is your guy. Yeah.
Alright, keep me off.
Okay.
I feel like Pythagoras rising, your moon signs in your moon philosopher.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. We're gonna I'm gonna look into that book. Thank you.
Post that book in the comments if you don't mind for other people to see.
Ooh, love you. Have a great night. All right, let's remove Lily. Okay. All right, let's see if Jess is still on here. Okay, let's see. The waiting.
This is the one thing I think that makes a beard maybe like that.
Yeah, the stroking. The running. I feel like if I was just combing. Oh my god, I think I have a small brush. That would be so funny if I was just
a tiny brush.
A tiny beard brush.
That's for your eyebrows?
It's for my wigs, my little brush. Oh, I do have like a small eyebrow one, but I think this one would be funnier for my beard. While we're waiting for Jesse, who is a renowned Buddhist.
We just raced through the Enlightenment, so
we did,
and we got all the way to kind of
Can I please talk about Camus real quick?
Mechanics. Yeah, give us some more Camus.
So Camus, I love him. He's great. He was. I like that because most of the existentialists were like kind of unattractive and like very sad and like didn't have good luck with like women Oh, you're unable.
Bad signal.
If there's a bad signal, Jesse might be unable to join.
Who knows what the internet's like out there in the Rockaways?
Yeah.
Could be rough.
Well, Jesse, you're invited to hop on if you can get a good signal.
But you're right. The right, like
Oh yeah, here's the little brush. So it would be like, oh here, it would look better.
like, well, Kafka was famously like, he was sickly and sad and like died very young, for example. I think Sartre was a little better off with.
And Kierkegaard, like everyone in his life, I think died, and then he died. Like it was, yeah, like all his brothers died.
Tragic ends for these Germans. But then Camus comes along, and
Camus
he's the playboy.
hot. He's an athlete. He's dressed like James Dean, but his protagonists are all like sort of Byronic, like Holden Caulfield anti-heroes. Like they just they can't be accessed emotionally. But he had.
I have too many girlfriends. I'm incapable of love.
Yeah, or they're just like, eh. So, they're just like the ultimate cool guy. But then he has this really like delightful love of simple things, which is why he's like my favorite one, because I love simple things. Like I love getting up in the morning and just like being like, oh, the morning. Like, and I feel like Camus loved the sun, and like oh yes, Jesse. Okay, Camus loved the sun. We can end on that with
if the live works, I hope it. I do hope it comes to.
This is hello. It worked.
Hi.
We're so excited.
We did it.
We
Thank you,
did it.
technology.
Thank you. Woo.
It was my privacy settings again.
Oh, damn. Oh my goodness. Our Buddhist philosopher.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So we did a poor kid's rendition of Siddhartha and Buddhism earlier.
I'm trying to be like second wave Siddhartha before
This is decadent Siddhartha here.
I love that.
Yeah, this is Nietzsche gone wild.
But
Cute.
But please fill us and our viewers in. If you could give us a primer, perhaps.
Or just your sort of experiences with
Buddhism in the modern world.
Yeah.
Sure. How to sum it up? Well,
Yeah.
you were talking earlier about only your sense perceptions, only what you can sense being real. Buddhist philosophy, at least in terms of tantric Buddhism, tends to believe that all that you experience is the mind.
Oh, how?
Renzen's here.
Hello.
So, but the mind is a sense, is another sense that you have, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Mindfulness of mind.
Yes. Which, yeah, like the whole idea that like that I've gone like down like for meditating. Sometimes it can get really meta and like really trippy, where you're like, okay, things aren't supposed to affect me, but I'm supposed to be conscious of that, and it's kind of like a mind within a mind within a mind. That's that's my experience. But you lead a meditation.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I like what you're saying, a mind within a mind. It's like, you can place the mind on something. For example, you're thinking about what I'm saying.
Right.
But you can also, with a larger part of your mind, you might call it your awareness. Your awareness can be aware that you're listening to me, right? So there's part of your mind that's not engaged in listening to me, that can be an observer. And I think it's that sense of spaciousness that we try to develop in our meditation.
Oh, I love that. And what was and what got you interested in in Buddhism and in meditation, like initially, if you can recall?
I can recall exactly the moment. So I was in the Peace Corps in Ethiopia, and I spent a lot of time alone in a one-room home and with no internet. And so a friend gave me a book on meditation and said, like, I think you would like this. And since I didn't have anything else to do, I read it and started meditating.
Yes. And I remember when you came back from Ethiopia, you had really like sort of found yourself. You kind of went through what I, second wave Siddhartha, will go through later in my life.
Yes, you'll shed a lot of things.
Yeah, because I remember you cut your hair and you like you had like a lot of piercings and you were like everything that I thought was me, like my personas, my masks or whatever. Like I couldn't have them really because it was like unhealthy. So like I couldn't take care, like. And you were like, yeah, you're just left with like this little bit of yourself, and you were like, I just remember when you came back, you were like, you were there, but then sort of you had this like whole new sense of self.
Yeah, I think a lot fell away, particularly because I was in a culture where I couldn't communicate, so relying on my intellect or my verbal acuity didn't work anymore, and so the only way I could really connect with people was just, non-verbally human to human. And so I think, a lot of the pretense falls away in that situation.
Yeah. And then, let's see. Would it, Do you have a question?
Did you have any questions?
I'm like, I have so many questions. I'm trying to think of like the one. So you went through like a ceremony. What's your like title of? Because I remember you went through like a ceremony where you had to take vows, right?
Oh yes, but it was just it's called taking refuge. So when you formally enter the Buddhist path, you take refuge in what's called the three jewels, which are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the Buddha, the teacher, his teachings, and your companions on the path of study. So, yeah, community, study, and a teacher.
Because I think a lot of people encounter Buddhism like right now as a philosophy, but as meditation is like a self-help like thing to do mentally, right? They encounter like the practice of like meditation, but not Buddhism as like a path or as like a philosophy of like being, right?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, just as like maybe like a tool for calming or focusing or...
Yeah.
Well, it's nice because I think it's unique among a lot of religions that you can do the spiritual practice that is the thing and get like huge benefits from it without knowing any of the reasoning behind it or why or like where it sits on like the path to enlightenment or anything, right? It's like it in itself can be a rewarding experience.
But perhaps like there's a percentage of people who are drawn to meditating as like a self-help technique or like a like to get calm or to like stop thinking or but maybe if their karma is right, then they become interested in more of the spiritual or philosophical component.
Which is what happened. That's what happened with you, right? Because you started meditating, and then when you got back to the States, you looked into what did you do? What were like the steps? What did you?
Yeah, I was really just looking for a place to meditate with other people because I never had before.
Yeah.
And so I started going, to a meditation center. I finally this year actually found a teacher, so I now have a formal teacher.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's great. And and do you teach meditation as well, right?
I do. I teach shamatha meditation. It's called peaceful abiding meditation. It's actually what a lot of people are seeking, a way to calm, to settle the mind. So it's we can do it right now if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, this is great.
So find a comfortable posture, or whatever is the most comfortable for your body. It can look however you like. And take a moment to simply feel the ground underneath your body. And if your breath is available to you, allow your attention to rest lightly on your breath. How it enters the body, how it exits the body. You guys look like natural Siddharthas.
That do you feel calm? Do you feel a little
I do
calmer?
feel a lot calmer.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go on your journey, Ariel?
Yeah, I'm ready to
With
go.
your
I'm
wife?
ready. Let's go. Let's do this. Yeah, let's sit under this tree. I need, or let me be by the water. Let me observe.
First, you have to experience old age, sickness, and death.
Yeah. Well, this I was saying. I was like, yeah. My friend took me on this really crazy trip, and I saw an old person. I was like, gross, and he was like, and I saw a sick person, and I was like, ew. And then I saw a dead person, and I was like, this is the craziest trip ever.
I
Like,
know.
why?
Yeah. And I was like, someone come get your man.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You just leave a dead body in the road? What the fuck? Like, somebody... Yeah. This is an undertaker. Is there no public health authority? What is happening? Yeah.
But yeah, I love it's what you were saying. You can do the spiritual practice, or you can do the physical practice.
That's not. I mean, you can pray, right?
But
Christian version of the praying or whatever. You can pray to a higher power, but it's almost always within the church.
What
Because you're praying to specific
I
deity,
just thought of though, you're doing the same thing that the founder of the path did. It would be as if praying was akin to wandering the desert for
40 days
30
and 40
yeah
nights.
That's what's even cooler is you're doing what not the God, but what the one who's already found enlightenment is doing, which is so cool. No other religion, they're yes, you do the same thing that everyone does, even the ones who are the most enlightened.
Well, I grew up Catholic, and we did get to eat the body and blood of Christ, which is pretty exciting.
That is true. Yeah.
I mean, that's even better, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
We didn't get too deep into the split between the Calvinists and the Catholic Church, for example, with the argument over what exactly the sacrament was a core of it.
Yeah.
And they're wait, does it actually transmute into flesh when you eat it? And they're no, it's symbolic. And they're no, I think it really is.
It's transmutating.
Yeah, it's transmutating. And that led to a major, a lot of violence, a major split in the Catholic Church.
I want my real blood in my real body.
It's it becomes Jesus's body. That's what happened.
It just doesn't look like it.
And I think you're reading it very literally. It's just it was a symbol that he was saying. They're no, he said it.
Who's to know also that's something that Spinoza he was God is a thing, but no one can even comprehend, our brains can't even, so great, which I guess that's sort of, a lot of times when I've done guided meditation, they often say humans can't conceive of the spark of the universe that you have inside of you. You're everybody's so great beyond the way beyond what they can comprehend in this body, basically.
Yeah, this body is really the root of all of our suffering.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Gotta find a way to get rid of it.
Although the nihilists would say
suicide is always an option.
Well, and also that it can be the root of your joy, right?
Yeah. Well, yes, true.
Right. Or the Epicureans.
That's exactly it.
The Epicureans would say that you should live it up. Smoke them while you got them.
I kind of I like that.
Look how
Also,
much hair you pulled out of my beard.
It's
Oh,
also
yeah.
the vehicle of your awakening at the same time that it's the root of your suffering.
Mhm.
yeah. Which is actually, I mean, like, that's how Camus died.
Very existential.
He died in a really cool car.
Oh yeah, he was
With his
in
publisher.
in a car crash with his publisher.
Yeah. So the vehicle to his success was also the root of his suffering.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Ugh, sorry.
Spirit issues.
So should we wrap it up?
Yeah,
Wrap this
I think this
episode?
is
I think we're coming up on the hour.
yeah,
And
which we
Instagram's
always
gonna
get
boot
booted.
us.
Yeah, just it forces you to reincarnate after.
Mhm.
Is there
I hope you
anything?
come back with an even longer beard.
Us too.
They're really going out.
Yeah.
Richard on Twitch was saying we should do a ZZ Top episode, or just
Yeah.
like bands with beards. And
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have to change.
Well, yeah, we're all about.
But I think
change,
next
though.
week we're going to be talking about
The
sort
fall.
of fall harvest festivals,
Yeah, and
In-
like Hades and
including
Persephone,
including Thanksgiving, but yeah, going all the way back to the Greek myths.
and like
of
the
harvest.
Archangel Michael, and like yeah,
What?
Michael Moss.
Mhm. There's a lot of. Oh, they've been doing fall for a long time.
Yeah, autumn. Some call it
Autumn, some
autumn
call
in the
autumn.
streets.
It's the only, yeah, as PT said, it's the only season with an alias.
Yeah, where it's like, yo, I'm fall today. Don't be calling me autumn.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to leave everyone with?
Just this present moment.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that with the eyebrow raise too. So yeah, and do you like do one-on-one meditations? Like if people wanted to look you up or like have online?
Sure. If you would like meditation instruction, feel free to Instagram message.
Yeah,
What is that called? DMing? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Or you
yeah.
can- yeah.
I'm
They
an
can
old
DM you.
person.
I mean, yeah. So this is the way that this all worked. Is yeah, we took a lot. Well, we took a lot of praying. So yeah, Jessica is like the most relaxing, not like knowledgeable, sage human that I know, and so yeah, please contact her if you would like meditation help. Yeah, well, thank you so much, and we hope that you find your path to enlightenment is a smooth and beautiful one.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Okay.
there's Revo. Still there, but
Yeah.
I'm
I
afraid
think we're timed
I'm
out.
afraid we're gonna get kicked off in like any minute now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like that too. I was like, while we were meditating, I was like, please, it might be happening right now. Okay, there we go. I was like,
No, it's still going.
okay, good.
Maybe we extended the time.
They
limit.
might have. Maybe because we meditated, it like removed that
All right,
time.
we'll Google it after the show, but I still don't trust it. Like, I don't think we can't squeeze it.
We
in
can't.
another-
Yeah.
So let's do
But-
our plugs. And
Yeah.
then we'll leave you
if
to
you would-
ponder this episode.
If you would like to see everything that we covered here and hear it in a musical and aerial circus format, tune in Saturday, 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, we're gonna take this show and then do an interpretive dance and DJ set.
But like
Aerial,
a good,
aerial dance.
a
and
non-cringy
DJ set.
one, because you might be like, ooh, that's gonna be weird. You're gonna be shocked. You're
I'd
gonna be
tune in
like,
even if it was cringy. That sounds ridiculous.
yeah. Or tune in and make fun of us if you find it cringy. That's fine.
But it's
Yeah, we're stoics. We're unmoved by you
We're
making fun of
unmoved.
us and laughing at us. We've already
Mm-hmm.
considered the worst case
but
scenario.
it's gonna be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm very psyched. I'm working up.
Hi.
Hello, Revo.
Revo.
I'm working up a phenomenal DJ set based on all the greatest philosophers.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be
And
a lot of fireworks.
you should tune in to twitch.tv/secretloft for that one, just because like you're gonna get a multicam screen and like you will still be on Instagram. Thank you. They grow on you, don't they?
Mm.
We're just finishing up our philosophy episode. But come back for our Aerial Circus Philosophy Rave on Saturday. Yeah, I'm like, ooh. Yeah, come back
Next
for
week
it.
we'll be here on Question Block again,
Yeah.
Wednesday 8 p.m. talking about fall harvest festivals, including Thanksgiving, and
Yeah, or Indigenous Peoples Day and month
and we'll get Jill Clare, aka Reva,
to revolutionize
to join us for that one.
Yeah.
But it's a little too late. We're about to get booted.
Yeah.
So,
oh, wait. Should we clap? Should we clap?
Oh yeah,
should
get
we
the
be like,
soundboard out.
So for everyone who came on and tuned in, we really love you and appreciate you.
Oh, she wants a philosophy quote.
Let me see.
I'm a big fan of. Well, it's from
you
Descartes' "Cogito ergo sum."
Oh, what? Okay. Tell us.
Cogito ergo sum is I think therefore I am, which is, the way reality exists, and there's some truth and undoubtable things as well, just because you yourself can ask that question. So you must exist.
Oh, yeah.
That's a philosophy quote I have. There's certainly better ones, but
I said my favorite one is the Camus one that I mentioned earlier, which is like, in the midst of winter, I found within me an eternal summer, and that was actually on my Christmas card one year, and then I like.
In the midst of winter, I found within me an eternal summer.
Yeah, because it's like you have to, in the darkest of times, you have to internalize and then externalize joy that you've like stored up at some other point. So like if anyone is feeling sad or lonely, Camus would say, yeah, duh, that's like the life is sad and lonely and pointless and meaningless, but while we're here we can be a little bit ridiculous and laugh at it, and just like once Sisyphus knows that he's going to be pushing this stupid rock up this mountain forever,
you get to enjoy the work.
He gets to laugh at it.
And
he's like, maybe tomorrow I'll push it a little bit like this, and maybe the next day I'll push it with my penis, and maybe the next day I'll push it naked,
Revo, you can also rephrase it as cogito ergo cum.
And then with that note, but yeah, tune in for our rave. You'll love the music. You'll love the Aerial.
So we'll see you all Saturday night at 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, no one's going anywhere. The second wave is coming.
How did I get here? David Byrne.
This is not your beautiful house.
A good modern philosopher himself, actually.
Yeah.
Let's do some thoughty poses.
Oh, another Muhammad Ali. Did the shortest quotation ever. We, me. Right? Mic drop. Yeah. Oh, we love you. Oh, wait. Damn, where's that small brush?
You have to do the thinker.
Oh.
Yeah, sculpture episode coming soon. We'll do on to some Rodin's.
Yeah. Little beard.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, we love you.
We love you all.
Oh, wait. End it? Here.
Are you... Good night out there.
What?
Good night, Richard.
Good night, Richard. Come back for the rave. We miss you.
We'll see you at Rave Review. I hope everything's going well. How do I end this? There we